Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone. We are from Group 1. There is Arinda Wahyuning Tias and myself, Sumiati. In this opportunity, we are going to discuss about the definition of translation, interlingual, and intersemiotic translation. And the first will be explained by myself. Introduction. Translation is the process of transferring message or meaning from source language to target language. There are many definitions of translation. Some experts stated that translation is an operation on languages, a process of substituting a text in one language for a text in another. While the other also have their own opinion about translation, such as translation is the reproduction in a receptor language of the closest natural equivalent of the source language message, first in terms of meaning and second in terms of style. Definition of translation. Translation is a mental activity in which a meaning of given linguistic discourse is rendered from one language to another. Translation is an act through which the content of a text is transferred from the source language into the target language. Process product. The first sense relates to translation as a process, while the second to the product. The first focuses on the role of the translator in taking the original or source text and turning it into a text in other language, the target text. The second sense centers on the constraint translation product produced by the translator. Translation from theory to practice. Translation has several meanings. States that translation has several meanings. It can refer to the general subject field, the product, the text that has been translated, or the process, the act of producing the translation, otherwise known as translating. Western theory. Discussion of the theory and practice of translation reach back into antiquity and show remarkable continuities. The ancient Greek distinguished between metaphors, literal translation, and paraphrase. Translation is a broad notion which can be understood in many different ways. Translation is an incredibly broad notion which can be understood in many different ways. For example, one might talk of translation as a process or a product and identify such subtypes as literary translation, technical translation, subtitling, and machine translation. And that's next will be explained by Arinda Wahyuning Tias. Arinda, time is yours. Thank you.
My name is Arinda Wahyuning Tias. I will explain about intralingual translation, interlingual translation, and intersemiotic translation. So before I will explain about that, translation is often confused with interpreting, which is strictly speaking oral translation of a spoken message or text. Jacobson makes a very important distinction between three types of written translation. Intralingual translation is translate carried out with the same language, and this translation they communicate a meaning with the different texts in the same language. Interlingual translation. Translation from one language to another. This is called translation proper. The last intersemiotic translation. Translation of the verbal signs by non-verbal signs, for example, image or music. Thank you.
Thank you, Arinda, for your explanation. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for your attention. That's all the explanation from group 1. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.